Everybody, I'm thrilled to be here. I want to just apologize right up front for the fact I have a bit of a cold, so there may be a bit of coughing and hacking and sniffling in the course of this. I was honored last year to speak at Blackweek on why the future of advertising is black women. And this year, I'm honored to be here to talk to you about boys, men, positive masculinity, and why it matters to marketers. I'm not going to talk about the issues. I think we all know about the male loneliness epidemic, the struggle of boys. I want to focus right in straight away on solutions and on 5 principles of approach that every one of us in our industry can take to actually solve those problems. So the first principle is one that I've been talking to our industry about for many years now. And that is the enormous opportunity that we have to reinvent aspirational culture. And I say that because we invented aspiration. We made people want things. But back in the Mad Men days, we made people want material things. We made you want the right watch, the right car, the right house. Today, we have an enormous opportunity to reinvent aspiration, to make people want different things, things that will improve their lives, will make them happier, and when we do that, we create a far stronger emotional bond between consumers and the brands who see that opportunity. So we have an opportunity to reinvent aspirational masculinity. We have an opportunity to play our part as a very powerful force in popular culture in giving boys and men something different to want. And I'm going to give you some examples of what I mean by that, but I want to emphasize my second principle approach, which is we need to do this by communication through demonstration. And what I mean by that is don't say it, be it, do it, show it. As I think many of you know, I spent a large amount of my advertising career at Bartle Bogle Hegarty, and my ex-boss, Sir John Hegarty, was very fond of quoting Plato, who said, "It's information that goes in through the heart and not the head that is most readily absorbed and acted on." We need to make people feel what we want them to want by being it, doing it, showing it, because, as we said at BBH, our creative philosophy was we don't sell, we make people want to buy. Don't sell aspirational masculinity, make people want to buy it. So one example of what I mean is, again, something I've talked to our industry about for years, which is, our industry deals in stereotypes. And there's a very practical reason for that, because when you only have 30 seconds to communicate, stereotypes are useful creative shorthand. But what that means is our industry has perpetuated the stereotype of a marriage, a partnership, a relationship as being, and I speak heteronormatively because that's what we've also perpetuated, man as strong, confident breadwinner, woman as warm, caring, nurturing homemaker. And I've said for years, I want to see our industry represent the aspirational relationship role model of today, which is a partnership of equals. Because today, wherever you are in the world, both halves of a couple, whatever gender, work. Because you have to, because of the economy. Which means new forms of negotiation as to who does the housework, who does the childcare. What happens when one half of the couple earns more than the other? What happens when one half of the couple has a job and the other one doesn't? Imagine representing a partnership of equals as aspirational in a way that made men actively welcome the idea of being the house husband, being the one who stays home and looks after the children, as opposed to what currently happens, which is men who choose to do that being looked down on by men and women alike. Imagine completely reframing what that means in a way that makes it aspirational. How many of you have seen Ali Wong's Netflix comedy specials? Yep, a lot of you, terrific. So you may recall that in her 2018 special, Hard Knock Wife, She talked about the fact that she was making a lot more money than her husband, and her Asian mother was very concerned about this, concerned that her husband would leave her because he felt emasculated. And Ali Wong's response was, the only kind of man who would leave a woman who makes more money than he does is the kind of man that does not like free money. Imagine reframing in that context. That is what we can do to reinvent aspiration around relationships. So I want to talk to you next about what I'm doing in this area, because I'm not one of those speakers who stands up here and pontificates. Everything I talked about, I'm trying myself, experimenting, failing, trying again. And I'm reinventing aspiration, what is a very, very important area for boys and men, which is I'm reinventing sexual aspiration. Not all of you may know about what I do. So I started my business, Make Love Not Porn, nearly 17 years ago now, because I date younger men, and I realized all those years ago, through my direct personal experience dating younger men, that when we don't talk openly and honestly about sex, porn becomes sex education by default in not a good way. I'm a naturally action-oriented person. I went, right, going to do something about this. So purely as a side venture, I started Make Love Not Porn originally as kind of a public service announcement. Porn world versus real world. Here's what happens in the porn world. Here's what really happens in the real world. I launched Make Love Not Porn at TED in 2009. I became the only TED speaker to utter the words, "come on my face," on the TED stage several times. If you haven't seen my TED talk, find it on TED.com. It's worth a watch. The talk went viral immediately. And it drove this extraordinary global response to my tiny website that I had never anticipated. Thousands of people wrote to me from all around the world, young and old, men and female, straight and gay, pouring their hearts out, telling me things about their sex lives and their porn-watching habits they'd never told anyone before, and I realized I'd uncovered a huge global social issue. And so I turned Make Love Not Porn into what it is today, to make it more far-reaching, helpful, and effective. Today, we are the world's first and only user-generated, 100% human-curated, I'm going to talk more about that, social sex video sharing platform. We're kind of what Facebook would be if it allowed you to openly, healthily, sexually self-express, which it clearly does not. The way to think about us is, if porn is the Hollywood blockbuster movie, Make Love Not Porn is the badly needed documentary. We are a unique window onto the funny, messy, loving, wonderful sex we all have in the real world. We are socializing, normalizing, destigmatizing sex, bringing it out of the shadows into the sunlight to promote consent, communication, good sexual values and behavior. We are literally sex education through real-world demonstration. And very importantly, I designed Make Love Not Porn through the female lens to be the safest place on the internet. Because the young white male founders of the giant tech platforms that dominate our lives today, they are not the primary targets, online or offline, of harassment, abuse, racism, sexual assault, violence, rape, intimate image abuse. Therefore, they did not and they do not proactively design for the prevention of any of those things on their platforms. And we see the results of that around us every single day. Those of us who are most at risk every single day, women, black people, people of color, LGBTQ, people with disabilities, we design safe spaces and safe experiences, but we don't get funded. Only 1.7% of all venture capital last year went to female founders. That is why we have still not seen how much safer, better, happier, and by the way, way more lucrative, the future of the internet can be when it's designed and built through the female lens at scale. I designed Make Love Not Porn around 100% human curation. There's no self-publishing. Our curators watch every video from beginning to end before we approve or reject, and we publish it. No one else does that. We review every post on every member profile, every comment on every video before we approve or reject it and publish it. No one else does that. We can vouch for every single piece of content on our platform in a way no one else can. And the key point about that is we are tiny, bootstrapping, have no money and we've human-curated everything for 13 years. Imagine what Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat could do with their billions if they chose to. Safety on the internet is not a matter of viability, it's a matter of will. And I designed Make Love Not Porn around a revenue-sharing business model years before OnlyFans. Our members pay to subscribe, rent, and stream real-world sex videos. Half that revenue goes to our contributors, whom we call our Make Love Not Porn stars. And as a unique business, we have a unique capability. We have the power to change people's sexual attitudes and behavior for the better in a way that nothing else can. And that's because I designed Make Love Not Porn around all my own beliefs and philosophies, one of which is that everything in life starts with you and your values. So I regularly ask people this question: what are your sexual values? And nobody can ever answer me because we're not taught to think like that. Our parents bring us up to have good manners, a work ethic, a sense of responsibility, accountability. Nobody ever brings us up to behave well in bed. But they should, because in bed, values like empathy, sensitivity, generosity, kindness, honesty, trust, respect are as important as those values are in every other area of our lives where we're actively taught to exercise them. A young man wrote to us, "Your website makes me want to have sex in a more grown-up, honest, and respectful way." That's really important because our mission at Make Love Not Porn ultimately is to help end rape culture globally. Now that may sound, thank you. Now, that may sound like a very big mission, but we have 13 years of proof of concept at a micro level. We help end rape culture by doing something very simple that no one else is doing. We show you how wonderful great consensual communicative sex is in the real world. Our social sex videos role model good sexual values and good sexual behavior. And here's the key part. We make all of that aspirational versus what you see in porn and popular culture. One man left a comment saying, "This video makes me want to be a better man in the bedroom and in life." We can do that. And what is really interesting is, I designed Make Love Not Porn to be fully diverse and inclusive, and we are. Our members, our Make Love Not Porn stars, are all ages 18 to 80, all races, ethnicities. We're a global platform. Male, female, trans, non-binary, straight, LGBTQ, asexual. But in the 13 years we've operated, we've discovered that Make Love Not Porn is especially a revelation to men of all ages. More men send us grateful emails, leave appreciative comments than anyone else, and women love us too, but this is especially noteworthy, because we are something utterly unique that men will find nowhere else on the internet, which is a safe space where men can be and watch other men being open, emotional, and vulnerable around sex. You would not believe the number of men who write to us regularly and say, "I just watched my first video on Make Love Not Porn, and afterwards I cried." I've said for years, I wish society understood the opposite of what it thinks is true. Women enjoy sex just as much as men, and men are just as romantic as women. Yet neither gender is allowed to openly celebrate either of those facts. We would all be so much better off if they were. I picked up this wonderful Twitter exchange a few years back. So a guy tweeted, "I'm looking for some porn recommendations for a pretty weird kink I have, hoping you all can help me. It's a fetish where someone loves and appreciates you for who you are and is loyal and decent. Hit a brother up with your hottest links, please." And another man replied and said, "There's a website called Make Love Not Porn where real-life couples film themselves making love. It's pretty hot and real." I found a video there where the woman actually said, "I love you," while making love to her man. Sincerely, I started crying when I heard that. Make Love Not Porn is reinventing aspiration around love, sex, romance, intimacy, relationships. We are presenting aspirational masculinity in the foundational context of sex and love. And this is really important because a study done by Bitdefender of 19,000 parents worldwide identified that kids stumble across porn online as early as the age of 6. This study was done 12 years ago. Imagine how much worse it is now. So parents and teachers began reaching out to me from day one of Make Love Not Porn, begging me for the 0 to 18 and beyond sex education extension of what we do. And so 10 years ago, I came up with the idea of MakeLoveNotPorn.academy. This is what I characterize as the Khan Academy of sex education. Because Khan Academy tutors on every other topic under the sun except this one. EdTech exploding as a sector, not in this area. So I came up with this idea 10 years ago. This is a Fortune headline from 2015. That's how long investors have refused to fund it. And I came up with the idea of this as an aggregator play. I wanted to build the go-to global hub for the best of the world's sex education content that is already out there, but is being blocked, censored, and deplatformed everywhere as we speak. Our mission for Make Love Not Porn Academy is to organize the world's sex education information and make it universally accessible and useful. That is a deliberate paraphrase of Google's original mission statement: organize the world's information to make it universally accessible and useful, because today in this area, Google is not doing that. The algorithm is biased. It's censoring. Parents and teachers tell me all the time they cannot find the resources they need when they search for them. So we are building the Google of sex ed. And I'm happy to report that last year, I managed to raise a small amount of equity crowdfunding. I raised some bridge funding. We have just completed the build of Make Love Not Porn Academy. We are finalizing the platform. We have over 100 brilliant educators on standby. We're going to invite them into a private beta shortly to populate the platform with their free-to-access content, their books and products and lesson plans they can sell. And we'll be launching Make Love Not Porn Academy within the next couple of months. And if you go to MakeLoveNotPorn.academy, the URL, you can enter your email address to be notified when we do launch. And the important thing about this is we're doing something very unique here, because there's a reason our name is Make Love Not Porn. We view everything through the lens of love. Make Love Not Porn is love in action. Make Love Not Porn Academy is education through love. Because today, kids are growing up as much through screens as IRL. They are communicating so much through screens that IRL social interactions are awkward and anxiety-inducing. They are stumbling across porn at the age of 6. They are forming relationships with AI chatbots. AI chatbot usage is exploding in a sexual or romantic context with children. And those relationships are friction-free, play back exactly what you want to hear. What is getting lost in all of that is the friction, the joy, the messiness, the heartbreak, the connection, and when you're old enough, the expression through sex of first love. I've said to parents for years, you must educate your kids about sex as early as possible. I've also said, you must educate them about love as early as possible. Love is such a foundational construct in our society, we leave it to popular culture to define. So we are framing all of this through the lens of love. We're educating at the Academy about intimacy, dating, romance. And this could not be more needed. And I'm also taking this to boys and young men IRL. How many of you here have heard of a wonderful organization called the National League of Young Men? There is surprisingly low awareness of this amazing nonprofit. I didn't know about it either until I got this invitation earlier this year. But the National League of Young Men is an organization with chapters all over America for high school boys and their mothers. And mothers run each chapter and organize programming designed to bring these young boys and men up to be fine, upstanding leaders of the community. So earlier this year, the mothers of the Greenwich, Connecticut chapter of the National League of Young Men invited me to talk to 50 high school boys about Make Love Not Porn. And they were brilliant. This was held in one of their houses. They had a big living area. The mothers said to the boys, and first of all, they fed them pizza and sushi, really good idea. Then they said to the boys, okay, we're going out, we're closing the doors, we hear nothing. We know nothing. We'll be over in another corner of the house. This is your opportunity. Ask Cindy anything. And we had the most amazing Q&A session after my presentation about Make Love Not Porn, and they were adorable. You know, they wanted to know all the really fundamental things like, do girls really like big cocks? And so I had the chance to land messages like, no, it's not what you've got, it's what you do with it. But you know, it's all about love and romance and relationships. Now, this is Greenwich, Connecticut. And as you can see, this group was predominantly white. I had the opportunity to educate another group, very large group of boys and men in a very different context, which was Streamer University. So earlier this year, I saw that Cenat was launching Streamer University and inviting applications for students and professors. So I went to streameruniversity.com, which, by the way, that website crashed in the first few minutes because over 1 million people applied. And on the list of courses, the very first one was sex education. And I thought, that looks promising. So I thought, what the hell? I'll never get in, but I'm going to apply to teach a class at Streamer University on how to make love, not porn. So did the application, made a video of myself explaining why I thought it was so important. Never thought I'd get in. So, you know, the night that Kai announced the professors and students, I was dealing with a bunch of stress on Make Love Not Porn. I was out with a friend getting completely drunk, got home tanked, went on social media, went, oh my God, what the actual fuck? And what was really funny was, so Kai, how many of you saw the reveal of professors, students for Stream University? So Kai was holding up a board for the professors with, you know, post-it notes covering the names, and revealing the names of very, very well-known streamers. So, you know, DDG, yeah! You know, India Love, yeah! Cooking with Kaya, yeah! Cindy Gallop, deathly silence, okay? Kai goes, don't know who she is? That's good. It means I'm bringing new streamers to the table. So I went to what everyone now knows, undisclosed location, Akron University, Ohio, to teach classes at Stream University. And I have to say, it was the most amazing experience. I couldn't believe I was there, especially as I was decades older than, like, you know, everybody. In fact, when I introduced myself at orientation, I felt it was important to address the two elephants in the room. I went, first of all, I'm not white, I'm half Chinese. And secondly, yes, I'm ancient. I am 65 years old. I am the Professor McGonagall of Streamer University. And as you can see, the classes I taught, I actually made serve a dual purpose. I talked about Make Love Not Porn, and again, the response was fantastic. Again, you know, boys and men and girls and women absolutely want to know how to make love, not porn. They want real intimacy, real connection, real love. But I also, because this is the purpose of Stream University, used my background to teach young streamers about how to build their personal brands, you know, what will create the right conditions for brands to want to partner with them and sponsor them, and then importantly, how to negotiate with those brands to make sure that they could make an absolute goddamn fucking shit ton of money. And I'm happy to report that my classes went down extremely well. I managed to find a few responses on social. The first meaningful class at Stream University, there are people out there living lives that don't really want to live. This was me encouraging people to carve their own paths. Cindy's class is top tier, caught myself actually paying attention. Yep, fuck you, pay me, was part of my negotiating tactics for streamers. Cindy Gallop's my favorite teacher so far. And this was a lovely DM I got on Instagram. You know, we've all loved watching your classes. You're totally awesome. Can you advise we can rewatch the videos? Your information is invaluable. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. And I said, I'm hoping they'll post clips and videos. Please do. I've been searching Twitch for your content. I had no idea who you were before this, but within your opening sentence, I was annoyed I hadn't found you sooner. So many streamers' chats are buzzing about your lessons. So that was really, really lovely to hear. But also, the reason I'm sharing this with you is because I see a huge opportunity to reinvent aspiration through streaming. This is a massively overlooked medium for our industry. And by the way, I'm too ahead of my time for my own good. Years ago, Joanna Coles hired me. She'd just taken up the role of editor-in-chief of Cosmopolitan back in the day, and she hired me to run a day-long workshop for her and 60 of her team to rally them behind her vision. And off the back of that, she invited me years ago to an event that Cosmo used to hold, which was something like, 100 brilliant women. And it was held over lunch at Michael's, the restaurant here in New York. And it was a really amazing event with these incredible women. And I was sitting there thinking, Cosmo's readership would love this. And I asked Joanna afterwards, didn't you think about live streaming that event so that you could build community around it and all of Cosmo's readers could feel a part of it? And the thought had not even occurred to her. I was consulting for a brand, again years ago, and I said to them, live streaming behind the scenes at the brand, at the company, events is a great way of demonstrating authenticity and transparency. And this was years before live streaming was a thing. So it was really surprising to me, first of all, that Streamer University did not get more mainstream media coverage. And I have to ask the question, if that had been a white man, if that had been Mr. Beast, would it have been different? And secondly, our industry really didn't take very much notice of it either, and I found that extraordinary. I don't know if Mary Pryor is by any chance in the audience, so this is Mary posting, Cindy Gallop DMing her way to Stream University with Kai Cenat's crew is a big deal. I wish that my millennial, Gen Z, baby boomer, and Gen X peoples understood why and what an impact this is given the demographics at play in the streamer game right now. I'm inspired. This is a lovely conversation to watch. Again, I don't know if Kai or Georgianne are here, Kai said, the kids were engaged. The conversation in the stream chat took me by surprise. Also, by the way, a lot of this went on. I just watched one of the babies try to holler at Cindy Gallop. The moment they found out that I date younger men, and by the way, they were very respectful about their approaches, but yeah, I got a lot of that. Rob Mayhew, whom I'm sure a lot of you know, commented on this. Why are we not all talking about Cindy Gallop at Stream University with Kai Cenat? We are all chasing culture. Cindy Gallop is living it. So streaming is fascinating because, I was plunged into the white-hot epicenter of popular culture at Stream University. Everybody was live streaming everything. Whenever I talked to anybody, I wasn't just talking to them, I was talking to the entire chat. And it really brought home to me the opportunity for brands and marketers to engage with Gen Z and Gen Alpha in ways that are absolutely all about authenticity, and very importantly, to build partnerships with streamers that are a bit different from the usual. And the reason I'm emphasizing this is, so I was sitting in the Stream University cafeteria one day having lunch with a woman streamer. Another woman came up to us and said, "Are you guys free tonight?" We went, "Yep." And she said, "We're going to have a sorority hang. All the women of Stream University are getting together for a girls-only session tonight." And so I went along, again, decades older than the next nearest my age streamer. And this was a fantastic session because Stream University, like streaming generally, was male-dominated. And as the women said, the men were generating all the buzz and the excitement and putting their streams out there. And they said, we need to stand up for women. And so we went around the room. Each streamer identified her primary channels. Some people are more Twitch, some are more YouTube, some are more TikTok. What their area of specialty was, what their interests were, and what help they needed. And all the other women committed to following each other and helping each other. And this is really, really important because, as I said, I think there's a real opportunity for brands to not do the standard lazy influencer thing, which is we want to partner with someone who already has millions of followers, audience, but instead to go, who are the young streamers who stand for the same values our brand does, where we can partner and we can help them build their audience And we can grow that audience together for them and for us. And I really, really encourage all of you to do that, because I think there's a huge opportunity in doing that to bring female streamers to the fore, and also said to reinvent aspiration around positive masculinity as demonstrated by the streamer community. But for my fifth and final recommendation, I really want to ask you to look hard at how we can reinvent aspirational masculinity through the female lens. You know, the example I've just given you, but also because, you know, there's no greater demonstration of positive masculinity than men written by women. And I'm sure you're familiar with this, you know, internet meme. But in our industry, again, as you all know, male-dominated still to this day in 2025, especially in the creative department. And a lot of the stereotyping that we see in advertising and marketing is written by men. Men wrote those hapless husbands, those bumbling fathers, because it was quick and easy to default to those stereotypes. We write men differently, and that's a huge opportunity. I have worked with the Ad Council now for something like 25 years. I started off sitting on campaign review committees, and these days I'm one of 3 campaign review committee chairs for the Ad Council, together with Susan Cradle and Margaret Johnson of Goodby. And I'm delighted that the 3 Ad Council CRC chairs are all women. And you know, our task at the CRC is to help make the work great. And so we review all of those amazing Ad Council campaigns at 3 stages. At strategy stage, to make sure the strategy is as effective as possible, gives the creative department a brilliant springboard. At creative concept stage, and then at rough cut, you know, just about ready to air stage. And so over the years, I've had 25 years of seeing agencies present creative work to me. Years ago, a very large, very well-known agency, I'm not going to name any names in these 2 anecdotes, presented a campaign, which we all reviewed, and at the end of the meeting, I said to the creative team from the agency, one last thing. Can you just do one thing in the TV scripts you presented to us that is really simple and easy to do? The client will have no issue with it. It doesn't add anything to the budget. Just flip the genders, so you put the girl on the soccer field with dad and you put the boy in the kitchen with mom. Because they presented 2 scripts, one of which had the boy on the soccer field with dad and the girl in the kitchen with mom. And just by flipping the genders, you could make a statement that isn't even being wildly overt, but would absolutely have its own impact. More recently, a couple of years ago, I was reviewing a campaign to do with elder care, targeted at the Hispanic audience, created by a Hispanic agency that works with the Ad Council. And, you know, great campaign. And I think we were reviewing it this is at the rough cut stage, so the spots had been filmed. We reviewed 3 commercials. But I said to the agency, and the senior leadership were all there, there's just one thing I want to highlight. Going forwards in this campaign, it would be great for you not to do as you've done in all 3 spots, which is make the younger generation person in the family who's concerned about the elder female. Put a man in there, in that role. And the agency leadership said to me, but this is the way it is in our community. And I said, that is not the way it has to be in your community. Women are the default primary caregivers for every generation, children or parents, elderly people in the family. And it doesn't have to be that way. And one way that we can start representing a different form of aspirational masculinity is by showcasing the work we do, men doing things that absolutely are aspirational, that should make the men seeing those ads want to do them as well. So I encourage all of you to look at how we can reinvent aspirational masculinity, especially if we think about it as men written by women, and if we make sure that we have men written by women in all of our agencies, you know, marketing companies, and on the brand side as well. So those are the points I wanted to make to you. Thank you very much. And we have a few minutes for Q&A if anybody would like to ask me anything. Yeah, there's a hand up there. Yep. Do we have a microphone somewhere? Yep. Coming over.
This was amazing. Chase Campbell, cultural intelligence. I skipped breakfast to rush over here to talk about sex ed at 9 in the morning. I made it a point to get here. So many great things in this presentation. Thank you again. I love what you mentioned about reinventing aspirational masculinity. This is one of my favorite topics. And one of your final points about streaming, I wanted to know, how do we, I guess, jumpstart this journey towards reinventing aspirational masculinity through streaming when names like Aiden Ross, Sneeko, Neon take up so much of the conversation and perpetuate a lot of that red pill content to young audiences at a rate that scales? How do we kind of mitigate that journey?
I totally hear you on that, because I made a point at Stream University of sitting in a number of the other professors' classes. And you know, or watching them, and you know, I heard some things I was not happy to hear. And I honestly do think the answer is go straight to the female streamer community. Start with all of the women who are both teaching and students at Stream University. There's a dedicated Stream University section on Twitch. And by the way, I was really blown away by, you know, I sat in on Cooking with Kaya's classes. I assume everyone's familiar with Cooking with Kaya. You know, she did a brilliant class because she brought in, like, you know, hot plates and ingredients, made the class divide up into groups. Each one had to create their own recipe, sauce recipe for chicken wings, and then they had to give it a name. And then they had to do a sales pitch to the rest of the class about why their dish was so brilliant. And so it was actually schooling in the principles of how you become a foodie, you know, cooking streamer. And there are, amongst the students, there are many up-and-coming young women streamers. I think that partnering with them, creating brand partnerships with them, elevating them, bringing them larger followings, raising their profile, absolutely begins tipping the balance in favor of, you know, different aspirations. And then, you know, it's like anything else. Lead with women, and the men will follow. And I've been saying that to marketers for years. Okay, too many brands think, oh, you know, lead with men, and we'll sweep the women up behind them. Actually, when you lead with women, when you make something enormously appealing to women, the men will absolutely follow. And I really encourage taking that approach with streaming. Does that make sense? Yes. Excellent. Question over there? Yep. Okay, one more question.
Cindy, hi, Nora Denizzo. Nice to see you.
You too.
I have a question about the academy. So my kids are 9 and 6 years old. My daughter has asked me about sex, so I have talked to her. My son is starting to show signs of getting interested. Will there be, as part of the academy, also a community for parents? Because I feel very shamed by other moms, like stay-at-home moms in my community, about talking about sex. So I was wondering if there will be like an interpersonal angle as well for parents.
No, a great question, Nora, and there absolutely will be. We are going to have a forum on the Academy because we think it's very important that parents absolutely share precisely what you highlight and feel supported and are able to actually exchange tips and ideas and suggestions. You know, and a very important part of that as well, I would just say, is, you know, I have friends or parents who've been following Make Love Not Porn for years credit me with how they've brought their children up. And one friend said to me, I make absolutely sure, you know, that my children go to school with all the accurate information because I know what misinformation gets spread in the schoolyard. You are doing everybody else a service when you educate your kids and they can go out there and spread the right, accurate information versus the ridiculousness that otherwise, unfortunately, continues. So, yeah. So, guys, unfortunately, we're out of time, so I have to leave you. But do Questions, hit me up, Cindy at MakeLoveNotPorn.com. Go to MakeLoveNotPorn.academy. Do join MakeLoveNotPorn.com. So if you like what I've said, please support what I do by going there and subscribing. It's been an honor. Thank you so much.